This video was produced by the Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net. Your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Pooka bringing you another game from the Pokemon trading card game online. Now, these days it's tough to find a good game or there are no glitches or anything like that going on. So, when I finally had a decent game to post online, I pulled this one out. Gonna post it for you, add some commentary in here, and hopefully we'll have some fun. So, this time around, still not playing a completely serious deck, but this is my Chandelure Gengar deck. Actually got the idea from a player from Florida named Chris Miller, who actually was crazy enough to play it at a city championship. Of course, any deck that runs Chandelure would love to run Tropical Beach, which allows you to draw up to 7 and then end your turn. How you do that? Because Chandelure doesn't really attack, it just uses its Curse Shadow ability, which places damage counters. And then you just kind of go from there. Then you use Tropical Beach at the end of your turn, but there is no Tropical Beach on Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. So, gonna have to deal with that. Now, normally I would start with the Litwick, but I do not have an energy in my hand, and I realize I might have to use Eek. So I start off with the Ghastly. I actually probably should not have even benched the Litwick, but Haunter has free retreat, so I'll be able to Communication for my Cleffa next turn, retreat, and use Eek, and then we'll go from there. My opponent does start with a Reshiram. Looks like a pretty straightforward Typhlosion Reshiram deck, and he's actually just going to... He's really going to play all those down? Going to fill his bench immediately with 4 Cyndaquils and a Reshiram and a Reshiram active, so it looks like he won't have any Ninetales or any supporting cast like that. And looks like good old Cleffa is prized. So this is not good news for me. No Cleffa. Looks like neither of us have any energy for a while. I will be able to get my Haunter out, which is okay, and then I'll be able to Communication for a Lampent, which is good. Now, let's go through the strategy of my deck. Basically, I just use Chandelure's Curse Shadow to place damage on Pokemon that I want to knock out eventually. And then I finish them off with Gengar's Curse Drop, which allows me to knock them out, and then send them to the Lost Zone thanks to its Pokebody Catastrophe. Because when Gengar is active, and a Pokemon gets knocked out, then it gets actually sent to the Lost Zone instead of the discard pile, and then eventually you win via the Lost World condition. It's a cool way to pull it off, but if we take a look here, my opponent has now rare candied 2 Typhlosions on the second turn, and plays a Professor Juniper, so pretty much a perfect hand right off the bat. The only thing that my opponent does not have is energy in the discard pile, or energy anywhere actually, so even though this looks horrible for me, this might not be too bad if he doesn't get energy, but if he gets energy in the discard pile, it looks like there's a Ninetales actually, so strange that he decided to fill his bench. Maybe Vulpix was prized or something, but having Ninetales out probably would have made his start even better. But here we go, he gets a Quilava as well, so turn 2, we are staring down a Quilava and 2 Typhlosions. Thankfully, my opponent does not have any fire energy in the discard pile, so I won't be seeing a blue flare this turn. Could certainly come next turn though. And there's a double colorless, so an Outrage will hit me for 20. So even if I get a Chandelure into play, I am vulnerable to a blue flare knockout. And this looks horrible. You know, whenever a Typhlosion deck can get a turn 2 Typhlosion, you're usually in a lot of trouble. So, not looking forward to this game. Gonna need a lot to go my way to pull it off. Especially since I don't really have energy. I really need to wait for him to take a prize before I get to use Twins. And by that time, I'll probably just get steamrolled, and this won't be too pretty. So I'm just going to evolve to Chandelure. I don't actually evolve into Gengar because I really don't need to. And then if I were to evolve into Gengar, and then he had a catcher and knocked it out, I would really just lose the Gengar for no reason. So I will just wait. I'll put down another Ghastly. And if the Haunter gets catchered and knocked out, I can then rare candy my other Ghastly into Gengar, and I'll still have one available. So Looks like my opponent does not have a supporter, which is very fortunate for me. No supporter to get, or even a junk arm to put stuff into the discard pile. No fire energy in the discard pile quite yet. So, things are looking up so far. Still not looking great, but I'm going to start targeting down things with Curse Shadow. I'm going to leave 4 on the Quilava, 2 on the Cyndaquil. That way, either one of those can be knocked out with Gengar's Curse Drop. I could place 4 on the Cyndaquil to knock it out, or 4 on the Quilava to knock it out. No reason to overcommit and put too much damage on one Pokemon. I left myself an option in case the Quilava did evolve. So, looks like once again, my opponent has no fire energy, so there is no blue flare coming at me. And I'm getting all of these free turns to set up with Curse Shadow. And here we go, I'll be able to use another one. And now I have to decide, where do I want to start spreading damage now? And I guess I could keep targeting down Quilava. You know, I'm going to put damage on this stuff, but it's also weird because if I put too much damage on something, and Chandelure is active, he can knock out his own Pokemon with Afterburner, preventing me from getting them into the Lost Zone with Gengar. And that's just a situation I want to avoid, so I need to spread my damage very carefully and make sure that he can't Afterburner and knock out his own Pokemon. It's just a very complicated mess, but right now he does not have any fire in his discard pile. He does, however, have another Typhlosion, so there's 3 Typhlosions and a Quilava. If he ever gets a fire, I am probably dead. There's just, it's gonna be tough to deal with. So right now I just decide, okay, that Cyndaquil has evolved. I'm just gonna target down that Typhlosion, and really the only way I'm gonna win is to knock out a couple very big Pokemon and send multiple Pokemon into the Lost Zone, because when you knock something out with Curse Drop, you actually do get to send all of the Pokemon into the Lost Zone. So if I were to knock out that Typhlosion, the Cyndaquil and the Typhlosion would go to the Lost Zone. And here is another communication. My opponent could actually get a 4th Typhlosion out this turn, assuming it's not prized. So here we go. He's going to put in Quilava, see what he grabs. You know, 4 Typhlosions, man, that's going to be rough to actually get into the Lost Zone. That's ridiculous. But no, he gets a Reshiram. That means a Typhlosion is prized, thankfully. He won't be able to get 4 out, so every turn that he doesn't have a fire, this is actually more time for me to get set up and spread more damage to his field. Hopefully he doesn't play anything like a Max Potion or a Seeker. Even a Potion would mess up my math. So hopefully he doesn't have that stuff. In the meantime, Curse Shadow 3 at a time. We're going to just play some damage out there, set up for Gengar's Curse Drop, and hopefully get a victory via the Lost World. We'll see how much stuff we can get into the Lost Zone. This is kind of funny seeing how my opponent had such a ridiculous start, but something small like not having a fire energy can really turn the game around. So here is another junk arm. I don't know what he's got. Let's see, he's dumping his Ninetales and his Reshiram, maybe just to avoid me from using Hurl into Darkness. But actually, this is the 6th time that he's going to use Outrage for 20 damage, and he just needed that plus power to knock out the Chandelure. So, he knocks out one Chandelure, but I have a bunch of damage on his stuff already. And now I get to use Twins, so I don't mind this situation. I'll be able to keep setting up stuff to be knocked out by Curse Drop eventually. We'll go ahead and use Super Rod to shuffle in a Litwick, Lampent, and Chandelure. Curse Shadow again. I do play Switch, plenty of them, so I'll be able to switch and then use Curse Drop this turn. And we will go for there, I guess. I will be able to send that Quilava into the Lost Zone, and it's going to be cool. I'll get my first 2 Pokemon into the Lost Zone. Of course, once you get 6 Pokemon into the Lost Zone, I'll be able to use the Lost World and just declare myself the victor using Lost World. So, here's Curse Drop. I just need to put 1 on Quilava, and, you know, I can't knock anything else out quite yet, but I can soften it up. Let's see, I'll put all 3 on Typhlosion, just because, well, if he knocks it out now, and my opponent says hello, TerminalHope, kind of a neat name. But even if my opponent were to knock out his own Typhlosion with Afterburner, if Gengar is active, it still goes to the Lost Zone, so I don't mind. And actually there is a blue flare for a knockout. So, or not a knockout, actually it's 120. I apologize. So my Gengar still lives. I'll be able to send a Typhlosion into the Lost Zone now. Let's see. That Typhlosion is gone. I get to place 3 damage somewhere else. I would just put it on the Typhlosion that's already got 10 damage on it already. And alright, we're slowly picking away at our opponent. Things are going well. My opponent's only taken one. I actually have the prize lead, strangely enough. So a turn 2 double Typhlosion, and my opponent's only taken 1 prize at this point in the game. Kind of wacky, but that's how it's playing out, I suppose. There are 4 Pokemon in my opponent's Lost Zone. The problem is my Gengar will be knocked out this turn. And I don't know if I'll be able to get 2 more in the Lost Zone. And then if I do, I'll still need to get my Lost World. And my opponent will be using Blue Flare every single turn, because now they have 2 Typhlosions into play. And we're going to be in some trouble. Opponent plays down that Vulpix, so no cards in hand, which is good. Maybe they won't have a plus power or a catcher. And if that's the case, then Chandelure can take a hit. It does have 130 hit points. I'll be able to spread with Curse Shadow. And maybe I'll be able to knock out another Typhlosion. If I do that, I'll get 6 Pokemon into the Lost Zone, and we'll be all good. Just need to draw Lost World at this point. So I do have an Oak's New Theory, an N, and a Twins. I could hold on to that hand just in case. So when I do get knocked out, the Twins will help me out. But I decided to Oak's New Theory. I don't want to play the N, because that would give my opponent more cards. And I draw a Pokemon Catcher. So there are actually no fire in my opponent's discard pile. It's sort of a mistake there. Putting all the energy onto Reshiram, and then leaving yourself with none in the discard pile. So I'll be able to trap this Typhlosion in the active spot and start going to work with Curse Shadow. So, kind of a goofy game where this kind of stuff doesn't normally happen, but sometimes you can get trapped if you don't have enough energy. If you don't have any in your discard pile with Typhlosion, it's just a lesson. Always keep energy in your discard pile. Otherwise, stuff like this can happen with Pokemon Catcher in the format. There's also Lampent, who can do that as well. So just be aware, if you're playing a Typhlosion deck, to keep energy in your discard pile. Otherwise, a Typhlosion can get trapped, and then Chandelure can start doing his thing. So, I have an Oak's New Theory in my hand. Could probably play that if I wanted to. Yep, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll get the Curse Shadow once again. But I really need to get another Gengar into play. And hey, I get another Chandelure, which is nice. So I'll be able to Curse Shadow, switch, Curse Shadow again, which is really cool. And really start putting the damage on my opponent's field. There's 70 on that Typhlosion. I'll have it at 100 by the end of the turn. So there we go, there's that. I can play a switch, but I decide to just pass. I want to save the switch for a later time, when I can maybe Curse Shadow, switch, and then Curse Drop. But also this way I can take a hit with this active Chandelure and then switch. And then I'll promote the Chandelure with no damage on it. So that's kind of my thought process behind not switching. Now I could just knock out the Typhlosion this turn, but I'm not going to win by taking prizes. So I'm just going to try to wait, get it into the Lost Zone with Gengar. And that's going to be my plan of action. So I Collector for Litwick just to thin my deck out and get rid of that Collector, because I won't really need Collector anymore. I don't want to play it down just in case I do draw a Communication or something that would allow me to search for a Haunter. So I don't want to put the Litwick down, but I just want to grab it out of my deck. And there's that Communication, but actually I've already used my Haunter, I think. So now I have to wait for a Gengar, or actually a Rare Candy, I apologize. Once I get a Rare Candy, then I can Communication for Gengar and get a Gengar into play. So, this has been a pretty slow game for my opponent, which favors me greatly. I am able to just start spreading with Curse Drop, or with Cursed Shadow. Sorry, too many curses in this deck. Way too many ghosts. So Cursed Shadow will be able to put damage on my opponent's stuff, and finally another energy to retreat. Send out Reshiram, and if there's a plus power, I'll be able to get knocked out. If not, then I'm just going to switch, send out the fresh Chandelure, and everything will be a-okay. So there is that Typhlosion on the bench with 100 damage on it. That's going to be set up for a Curse Drop knockout once I get a Gengar out. If I get a Gengar out. That's not a guarantee. So I can switch to the new Chandelure since that has no damage on it. This is why I was holding onto that switch the whole time. I'll be able to use a second Curse Shadow. Might as well just bench the Litwick at this point. And, well, actually, yeah, I should not bench the Litwick. No reason to do that, really. And let's see, I'll put 10 more on the Typhlosion with 100. And just kind of try to put both Typhlosions in range for knockouts. One has 60 damage on it, one has 110 damage on it. So, actually, yeah, so in a couple turns, I'll actually be able to knock out both of those at once if I really need to. Problem is, I need Gengar to put stuff in the Lost Zone, because like I said, I don't think I'll be able to actually win on prizes. I can knock out the 2 Typhlosions, and then Vulpix. I don't know if I'll ever be able to knock out a Reshiram in time, so I really need to still go for that Lost World win. There are 4 Pokemon in the Lost Zone already. We'll see if I can get 2 more in there. It all depends on whether or not I get another Gengar. If I do, this will be quite a funny win, where I put 4 Cyndaquils in my opponent's Lost Zone, maybe? There are already 2 Cyndaquils, a Quilava, and a Typhlosion in there, and none have been put there by Hurl into Darkness, which is kind of funny. So, my opponent actually helps me out a little bit. Afterburners onto one of the Typhlosions, and there is a Blue Flare for 120 once again. And I do draw that Twins, so that is a pretty big deal. I will be able to get my Gengar out, so that is really nice. I have 2 energy on that Ghastly already, so this turn I'll be able to Curse Shadow. Let's see, I'll put 1 on that Typhlosion. Alright, so I'm actually going to put... Let's see, there are 50 hit points in total left on these Typhlosions, which is kind of silly. I'll be able to Curse Drop both of those next turn if I send up Chandelure and get a switch. So, things are looking up. Now, we'll have to see how greedy I am with this, because I would love to get all 4 Cyndaquils in the Lost Zone, but really I only need to knock out one of those Typhlosions. So I should actually just promote the Ghastly with 2 Psychic. Even if I draw a switch or something, or like that Rare Candy, that was helpful. So now I'll be able to Twins for a switch and the Lost World. So I'll grab the Lost World real quick. And I don't see a switch. Oh, there's a switch. Never mind, I do see a switch. We'll just ignore that. I'll be able to Communication for Gengar. So holding on to this Litwick allowed me to do this. Remember all those turns ago I didn't play it down. That helped me out quite a bit. Now there's Gengar. And I just have to play this out in the correct order. This is pretty important. So let's Rare Candy into Gengar. The active one, of course. It's got the 2 energy on it. I'll retreat to Chandelure. It's Curse Shadow to put both Typhlosions in range for the knockout. I'll actually be 10 short, it looks like, at the end of this for knocking out the Vulpix as well. That's unfortunate, but I'll live with myself, I guess. And we will switch back to Gengar. Here we go. Throw it on the Lost World, so next turn I can declare myself the winner. We will put 1 on that Typhlosion, 1 on the other Typhlosion, and then I guess we'll just put 2 on Vulpix because we can. And there we go. All the Typhlosions and Cyndaquils go into the Lost Zone. And I'm actually in the lead on prizes once again. So let's take a look at that Lost Zone. There's 4 Cyndaquils, a Quilava, and 3 Typhlosions. I don't think I've ever seen this before. This is quite a crazy game. The Chandelure Gengar gimmick is in full force. And unless my opponent has a counter stadium to get rid of that Lost World, I will be able to declare myself the winner and take down this game. So it looked very scary at the start. My opponent had a turn 2 double Typhlosion and a Quilava, but a lack of energy allowed me to spread damage, and there is actually a Pokemon catcher. But my opponent played an Engineer's Adjustments. Doesn't look like there's a stadium. Most decks do not play counter stadiums unless it's Tropical Beach, which doesn't exist on PTCGO, unfortunately. So I'm pretty safe in terms of my Lost World being there. We'll see. Alright, no counter stadium, and that means we will have an epic ending where we get to see the super cool Lost World animation when you win. So, all I'm going to have to do this turn is click on my Lost World and activate it, and you will get to see the cool ending that happens when you win via Lost World. I don't think I've ever done this before on a video, so this will be cool for you to see. Still waiting for my opponent to take a prize, though. Trying to buy time here. Not sure what the holdup is. I will be able to just click on the Lost World, and we'll get to show you. Alright, here we go. Set up Gengar. Gonna click on the Lost World. Here we go. Epic ending, and yeah, that's it. You would think that they would program something in to have some sort of celebration when you actually win via Lost World, but no, the game just ends. You click on it, and you win. So, kind of an anticlimactic ending, but that was a cool game to just show you a wacky deck. Chandelure Gengar deck, where you set up Pokemon with Chandelure, and then you knock them down with Gengar, and then win via the Lost World condition. So, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Be back with more videos soon, and I will see you next time.